Hi, Pastor Diego with Garden Christ Ministries again. I just want to tell you that this is actually, this particular message is going to be a three-part message. One of them is already out on the internet. This is part two. I'm not going in chronological order as far as the scriptures are concerned, but we're going to be speaking about the parable of the sower. So we'll start off on Matthew chapter 13. If you have your Bibles, turn to them. And for those of you that have them on smartphones, you can log on and do your thing. So we're going to start off with verse 3. It says, "Then he spoke many things to them in parables. Behold, a sower went out and sowed. And he sowed, some seed fell by the wayside, and the birds came and devoured them. Some fell on stony places where they did not have much earth, and they immediately sprang up because they had no depth of earth. But when the sun was up, they scorched, and because they had no root, they withered away. And some fell on thorns, and the thorns sprang up and choked them. But others fell on good ground and yielded up some crop of 100, some 60, and some 30. Thank you, Father God. I just ask that you anoint me to present this message and for those to understand it. Today's message is the deceitfulness of riches. I want to concentrate on Matthew chapter 13, starting with verse 7. These are the out of the three places where he sowed seed is where we're going to concentrate. And as I said, the other two, one of them's already out there. When tribulations come up, you can find that on YouTube also. But the third one I will preach at a later date. So, and some seed fell among the thorns, and the thorns sprang up and choked them out. The reason why I feel that this parable is the most important one is because in Mark chapter 4, Jesus says, "Do you not understand this parable? Because if you don't understand this one, how are you going to understand the rest?" So that's why I believe that this parable is crucial to understanding. You have to understand this parable before moving on in the Bible, so that this way you can receive what God needs you to receive and what He wants you to receive. So Jesus later on explains this to His disciples. Matthew 13, starting with verse 22. "Now he who received among the thorns is he who hears the word, and the cares of this world and the deceitfulness of riches choke the word, and he becomes unfruitful." I've had the privilege, when I first started ministering, to minister at convalescent homes, retirement homes, and some of those, because they're older, and as you can imagine, I've had to sit at a deathbed a few times with these individuals who are moving on. And I've been able to sit with some that had a positive effect on their family, and they were able to have their family with them, and there were tears and some of just complete sorrow, and there were some laughs and jokes about what their mother or father or grandmother or grandfather did in their life. And I've also had the sad occasion of being with someone who died alone, even though they had a family, even though they had children and a wife, and because of the way they lived their life. Now, through the course of this experience, I have never heard or even had someone imply that they wish they would have worked a little bit more, that they wish they would have spent a little bit more time doing overtime or at another side job or any of these things. They always come back to, "I wish I would have done more with my family. I wish I would have had a better relationship with my son or my daughter. I wish I was a better father. I wish I was a better husband. I wish I was a better brother or a better friend." Those are the things that people that are dying say. But when they're in their prime, we sometimes get confused about what we are really doing to provide a good life for our family, our friends, our so on. We think that, oh, if we get the better education and we keep striving for the job and this provides for our family and we'll be able to take this trip or we'll be able to take that trip. And God's saying that that's a deceitfulness of riches, because you know what? It never ends. There's never a limit. Every single time you get X amount of dollars, there's another X amount of dollars to get. Every time you get that new car, there's another new car to get. Every time you get a new computer or a new house, there's always something else. There's always something else. But God brings us back to this. He said, I'm going to provide for all your cares, all your riches, everything that you need. I'm going to provide all that. But what you need to work on, what you need to do, is work on the personal relationships in your life. With your neighbors, with your coworkers, with your students, if you're going to school, with your brothers and sisters, family, all these things. Those are the relationships that God counts on. Those are the relationships that He judges us on. Because you know what? You can go out and we just had a Powerball thing, and I've never played it. I'm not even sure how you're supposed to do it, but it was $600 million. And obviously a lot of people played it. One person won it. And I don't care what he does with his money. He can open up libraries and schools and donate to this and to that and whatever. And when that person dies, God's going to judge him the same as He's going to judge us on two things. One, did you accept my Son as your Lord and Savior? Two, how did you treat the person next to you? Lots of times the Bible says, bless those that curse you. With Peter, after Jesus died on the cross and Peter had already denied Him, in John 21, he asked Peter, he goes, Peter, do you love me? And Peter says, yes, Lord, I love you. And he goes, well, tend my sheep. He asked him again, Peter, do you love me? He goes, yes, Lord, you know me. He goes, feed my sheep. I asked him a third time, Peter, do you love me? And Peter gets frustrated and says, Lord, you know all things. What he's saying is, Lord, what? What is it? What are you asking me? Maybe he was thinking, is it because I denied you 3 times, so you're kind of, putting me through this? Because you think I'll deny you again? But Jesus answers him 3 times the same way. He says, tend my sheep, feed my sheep, tend my sheep. Who is that? Who's the sheep of God? We are. Your brother is. Your sister is. Your family, the person that's you get annoyed when you're walking into the store and they're saying, oh, can I get some change? I'm hungry. That's the sheep that God's talking about. Not how much money you tithe. Not if you had the fancy clothes, not if you got into the prestigious colleges and you did all those things and you started this and you started that and you paid your taxes and you voted and you were a productive citizen. What did you do for the person next to you? Even if you're at work and instead of trying to fight your way to the top to get promoted, what about the guy who didn't get the promotion? Are you encouraging him? Are you telling him, you know what? Maybe if you took some light classes, maybe if you did this, just because you didn't get it doesn't mean you're a bad person. Doesn't mean that you're not a good worker. Are you doing that? When you hear about your neighbor getting cancer or maybe their friend and you hear it through the grapevine, are you telling them, you know what? I don't know that person, but let them know I'm praying for them. I don't know them. But let them know that I'm praying for them. If they need anything, let me know and I'll do whatever I can to help them. That's tending God's sheep. That's feeding God's sheep. And that's what He's asking. Peter, do you love me? He's asking us the same thing every day. Do you love me? Yes, Lord. Do you remember the rich man in the Bible where he says, have you kept my commandments? He goes, since birth I've kept my commandments. Kept your commandments. And he says, okay, so now what must I do to get to heaven? He says, sell everything and give it to the poor. It wasn't that he wanted him to grow up and be poor. It wasn't that he wanted him to die poor. But what he was trying to explain to him and trying to explain to us is that didn't matter. You're not taking your money with you. You're not taking your overtime with you. You're not going to go to God and show Him your timesheet and say, look at all the times I've worked. Even on days off, I went in. He said, sell everything and give it to the poor. In other words, attend my sheep. Help them in any way you can help them. And he went away sorrowful. You know why he went away sorrowful? Because he couldn't do it. There was no connection there. There's no connection between the neighbor. There's no connection. To him, he was just another customer or just another whatever. This is the deceitfulness of riches. You think because you've got to a certain point in your life, or that you're getting to that certain point in your life, that you'll be fulfilled. You're not. It's not going to happen. I've seen it. I've seen the rich and I've seen the poor. Death is the common denominator. Everybody has to do it. And there's never been a poor person that said, gosh, if I just would have went to college and became a doctor and this and that and became rich, if I would have just won the lottery, then my death would be happy. Because I would have taken you guys around the world and I would have bought the new car I wanted. I would have had that new muscle car I wanted. But they always thank the family. They always think, oh, if I would have just had a little bit more time with you, that's all I would have asked for. And there's joy and there's laughter there, but every rich person I know never compliments their life about being rich. Not one of them. I dare one of you to research it and email me and say, yep, there was a rich person that said on his deathbed, I wish I would have stayed alive a little longer so I could work a little bit more. I can promise you, you probably aren't going to find it. They go away brokenhearted, sad, because they didn't spend the time with their wife, because they didn't spend the time with their kids. And if you don't spend time with your kids, guess what? You're probably not going to spend time with your grandkids, because your kids are going to grow up disgruntled. Your kids are going to grow up, and even though you're patting your grandkids on the head, they're going to say, you know what Grandpa was really like? You know what Grandma was really like? Sure, they're playing with you now and taking you to the park, but you know what he did to me? You know what she did to me? What are they going to say about you? Are they going to talk about the fishing trips that you went in? The times you went outside and played catch? Or Dad was on the phone? Another email. Knocking on your door. Dad, I'm busy right now. Is that what they're going to do? Because that, my friend, is deceitfulness. It's a lie. It's not going to happen. You're never going to work so much that your family falls in love with you. They might respect the fact that you work all the time. Yeah, Dad's a hard worker. Mom's a hard worker. But they'll never say I loved her for it. They'll never say I loved my dad because he went to work 6 days a week, 14 hours a day. It'll never happen. It's a lie. And God's telling you that this lie will bring unfruitfulness. Don't fall for it. Don't fall for it. Don't put that priority, that work is a priority. Don't put that the next promotion is what you really need to have to be happy. Instead, go back and tend the sheep and feed the sheep that God's put around you. Whether it's a friend, your children, your loved ones, your wife, your husband. I promise you that whatever company you work for, if you don't go do the overtime, it'll still be there. It'll still work out. Walmart will not close down because you didn't spend overtime. Instead, you opted to go and your kids' graduation or whatever it may be. I promise you that Metro PCS won't blow up and all of a sudden, if this one person would have just came into work today, we would still be around. But because Joe Schmo decided not to come in on Saturday anymore, on his day off, the whole company went belly up. I promise you that's not going to happen. But I also promise you that if you stick around and you become a really positive influence on your family, that on your deathbed they'll be there. And they'll be talking about the times that you went to the park and you went fishing and you went on a camping trip and how you had to change a tire on the side of the road or whatever happens. They'll have those stories forever. And they'll share it with your grandkids. And it'll go on and on. And you know what? What you do with them and what you tell them will make them grow up to be whoever they are. The same as whatever happened in your life made you grow up and be who you are. Same for them. If you don't like the way you grew up, if you don't have those memories with your family and your grandparents or whatever, then don't repeat it. Maybe you're one of those that just heard that their grandfather or father is dying and you haven't talked to them in years. Years. I hear this all the time. Sons emailing me and saying, I haven't talked to my dad in years. We're not guaranteed today. Some of you that are watching on the internet may not live through the rest of this day. Can you imagine that? Some of us that are logging onto YouTube right now will not end this day. I mean, they're not going to see tomorrow morning. And you want your last weeks or months or however long you live not talking to a brother, not talking to a sister, being mad at a neighbor for whatever reason. And you're going to stand before God and you say, oh yeah, God, I went to church, I tithed, I did all this thing. But you didn't talk to your brother for years. You don't know your son's favorite sport. You don't know your wife's favorite show. You don't know her color. We went, I remember in the beginning of becoming a minister, we went to a marriage thing. And me and my wife had just gotten married less than a year. And there was another couple, they'd been married for 40 years or whatever. And there was a middle couple who was been married for 20 years. And they said, oh, we know everything about each other. And so the minister started asking questions. Okay, what's your wife's favorite candy bar? What's your wife's favorite color? What's your wife's favorite this? And the two older ones didn't get anything right. Nothing. Not one question. They turned around and asked the women the same thing. What's your favorite this? What's his favorite this? What's your husband's favorite this? And neither one of them got any of their questions right. You know why? My wife and I did. You know why? Because we were the newlyweds. And they thought it was going to be reversed. You barely know each other. But the reason why is because when we were courting each other, we really learned each other. We were still in the I love you stage. They had grown apart. They let the cares of the world start choking out what really mattered. Now what really mattered was jobs. Now what really mattered was, I'm with them all day. I want to go out and do my own thing. I need to get more education. I'm tired of living in this apartment. I need to do this. I need to do that. And they forgot why they started that mission in the first place, was so that they would grow up and be old together and happy together. Now they don't even know each other. Well, I thank God for letting me go there as a newlywed, because I make sure that my family doesn't do that. And I'm not patting myself on the back. I'm not always there. I'm not always perfect. But my God, this is what we're supposed to be doing. Tend our sheep, feed our sheep. Starts in our home first, carries over to our jobs or school, whatever you're doing. But stop and make relationships. Relationships on Facebook are great, but you know what? There's no tangibleness. You don't really know if someone's logging on. Oh, I'm having a great day, really? Because when I ran into you in the store, your eyes were red and swollen, looked like you've been crying. Really, because I ran into your son at the park by himself. He looked miserable. But you're logging on Facebook and Twitter and saying, oh, we're having a great day. Off to work again. Make that $1. And your kids are depressed, wanting to kill themselves. And your daughter's knocking on doors looking for some guy to love her. Because you're not there. Because you're not tending your sheep. because you're not feeding your sheep. I don't know how else to say that. It's the most important thing you're going to do in your life. If it wasn't, God wouldn't have asked Peter. He would have said, Peter, do you love me? Yes, Lord. Then build me a sanctuary. Peter, do you love me? Yes, Lord. Then go out and make records. Peter, do you love me? Yes. Then start a business and give a percentage of that to the homeless. He didn't tell him to do any of that. 3 times. Do you love me? Yes. Tend my sheep. Do you love me? Yes. Feed my sheep. Do you love me? Yes, Lord. What is it? And I could just imagine they're sitting there and Jesus just grabs him and holds him and says, Peter, tend my sheep. Feed them. Don't forget about them. It's just a nice reminder for all of you that are out there. Riches is deceitful. Tend to the sheep that God's put in your life. Again, starting with your home. And then let that overflow. Neighbors, co-workers, wherever you're at. I hope this has encouraged you. Please stay tuned for the 3rd part of this. If you have any questions or anything, comment, email us, whatever. You can follow us on Facebook and Twitter. God bless.